And we're live.
Oh boy. It just shows a black screen when we're sitting there?
It should show this thing.
I thought it was going to show the little logo thing.
That's what I saw.
No, I see the logo. I see the logo.
Hello, Gavi. Hello, Kay Burris.
Oh, where's the link?
Hello, Ashley. I have
The link is in Slack.
a friend. I haven't talked to him in a long time. He used to be in videos that I made, named Danny Robles.
I know him.
And the first time that I ever saw his screen name before we had met in person, I read it out as Danny Robles. Oops. Just watched Bright. It wasn't as bad as Abby and Todd said it was. Wow, it's almost like people have different opinions on things. Hello, Ninja Nerd.
Ninja Nerd 007.
Also, Ninja Nerd Spy, I guess.
Ninja Nerd Spy.
Yeah, like
007.
I thought you said Ninja Nerds bi, like you were announcing that Ninja Nerd was bisexual. And I was like, I had no
Ninja
idea
Nerd
what Ninja
bi.
Nerd's sexual orientation was, and I don't know why that's relevant now.
Sounds like a thing that I would just...
In the broadcast. I like to think the camera is hanging from bucket lamp.
Oh. Yeah, so everyone knows it's there.
Someday when we have a really big office and everyone's got their own little space, I'm going to make sure that bucket light is hanging in your office above your desk.
I'm fine with that.
Everyone but Todd froze? Well, that's the way it was meant to be.
Yeah, I just refreshed.
Weird. Well,
That's really weird because Todd is the same place as us.
he's got the Todd blessing. How many viewers do we want to wait for before we jump into things? We're up to 12 according to this thing.
Yeah, whatever. Maybe give it another minute or so.
Hello, Naya. Today is a very nice day in Missoula, Montana. I don't know if you can tell with this blown out thing behind us, but it's finally kind of warm. The birds are singing. The kids are playing outside.
Caitlin has food.
Caitlin just arrived with Burger King. So
Ooh.
everything's good in the world.
There's a kitty in the window.
Yeah, there's a cat in the window, just chilling on the windowsill.
He's like, Caitlin is home.
Oh, there he goes.
The cat mother is here.
It is supposed to rain in a couple hours.
It's supposed to rain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's supposed to start raining this afternoon and rain all day tomorrow.
There's blue sky.
Also clouds.
Lots of clouds.
This Patreon live stream brought to you by Burger King. One of my favorite burgers in the world is the Jack in the Box Jack Spicy Chicken Sandwich. There are no Jack in the Boxes in Montana, so it's hard for me sometimes. But Burger King recently started selling their spicy chicken sandwich, which is just about as good.
It's so difficult for you.
I know.
There's still nothing that matches a Carl's Jr. burger, so
We should take a trip to Butte.
that's not the same.
Isn't it like 80% the same at least?
It's enough to make me want the real thing more.
Todd, Michael Morgan, and I were in Texas for South by Southwest.
Could tell the sad story.
Was that in March? And we were driving from Austin to Houston. And on the way, because Todd really likes Carl's Jr., we found a Carl's Jr. on the map. We're like, okay, we'll stop there on the way. We're driving, coming up to the Carl's Jr. Todd said that he was, thinking about, oh, what am I going to get? I'm so excited. We pull off the freeway. We have to go under the freeway to the other side where the Carl's Jr. is. We pull up, and then it looks weirdly dark inside. And there's a paper on the window that says, sorry, closed forever.
Yeah.
Hashtag Todd luck.
That's Todd luck in a nutshell.
Well, today we're here to talk about Patreon things. I don't even know where to start, I guess. I guess I don't want to make excuses because it's a thing we should have been better at anyway, but for various reasons, our ability to stay on top of Patreon stuff has not been where it should have been for a while. So as part of getting the vlog caught up, trying to get on top of Patreon, just be on top of things in general as our business prowess is increasing, we wanted to reevaluate how we're handling Patreon, what our perks are, and figure out, especially from people who are supporting the Patreon right now, what you're looking for, ways that you feel like we can better make you feel like a part of the community and make you feel valued for what you're contributing to our, hopefully, continued success. I guess, do we want to start with looking over the perks that we currently have? We want to start with talking about what properties have Patreons and which ones don't. I don't know.
Let's just go over what we have.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess it would be helpful if I had that on my screen. What's the website called? Patreon.
Todd, your thing where it says adjust bandwidth usage, can you turn that all the way down so we're not using too much?
Where is this?
In the Google Hangouts call, there's like several bars.
But very low.
Yeah, like to the bottom.
Okay. So we currently have tiers at $1, $3, $8, $13, and $21. The $1 tier, which allows access to this very live stream, I feel like we've been on top of that, aside from December, pretty regularly. I haven't uploaded main channel videos in forever, so that has not applied to anything. And this patron-only activity stream on Patreon, does anyone have any examples of people who use Patreon who use that well in a way that the audience is really engaged with? My problem is in that I'm always worried about what I would call like social media fragmentation, where people follow you on Twitter and people follow you on Instagram, and there's all these different places that you can interact with people, and the more that you have, the harder it is to keep up with each one of them and make sure that you are engaging people in a meaningful way on each of those platforms. So with the patron-only live stream, it's just never been something that I've thought, oh, I should put effort into engaging with people here. But if that needs to change, then that needs to change.
Those are especially spicy.
Gavi says, things I love about the Patreon perk-wise: music, live streams, behind-the-scenes access. I'm sure the Minecraft server is a strong point for many. Have you thought about having a scrolling list of patrons rather than 3 per video? How many videos do that style nowadays? And it might help give people who get left out on months where there aren't many vlogs. I don't know what the answer is there. Do you know how big is the list of patrons who still have to get slotted into videos?
On the end screen, there's like 2 or 3 Google Sheets worth of people.
How big is a Google Sheet?
Like 30 times 300.
There's 300 people on each Google Sheet?
And then we can open up the actual Google Sheet, the title sheet, and see.
Pomplamoose uses theirs pretty well. They let people choose the songs they're going to cover as well as small updates of what they're doing, and there's a lot of comments on all posts. Charlie, how do you feel about rolling the Patreon patron live stream into the overall social media machine that we're building?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, it's a good way to touch base and keep grounded with the people in the community. I mean, we get feedback from everybody who's watching and more people from the comments, but this is a very unique and direct way to communicate with people. So I think that would be a great idea.
Can you think of, if we're, like, what do we post on the patron stream versus what do we post on Twitter versus what do we put on Facebook?
You mean, are you talking about like the Patreon feed, like the posts on Patreon, or the stream, like the live stream?
The feed.
Okay. I think, and this rolls into, I think, what we're going to talk about in like maybe talking about new perks, but Patreon's an ideal place to post stuff that you don't post anywhere else. You know, it's kind of an exclusive thing, which is why people give, because they want access to that kind of material. And for the people watching, if you have ideas for stuff that you might think would be good exclusive content for Patreon, please tell us now.
When we get to the point where we say the patron feed is for exclusive content, I'm like, yes, that makes sense. But then when I take a step farther and ask, what is the exclusive content? That's when I'm like,
Right, because I feel like we're trying to do a lot of just public behind the scenes stuff at this point, so we need to figure out where that line is.
Well, and it's inherently hard with specifically what I'm doing right now because it's a vlog of your life. Everything is public by the nature of that content. So creating exclusive content is a little bit harder.
So maybe it would be something a little bit more prescribed, like what we do with the newsletter, where maybe we just have like a video of people talking about, or like answering stupid questions or doing a stupid fun thing. I don't know. Maybe something that we would just like make exclusively for Patreon.
Most likely.
We could do like an Ask Cinema video every month or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That might be cool. That's why I'm trying to catch up on the chat.
Giant. I love that idea. Just have the
Cinnamon.
post.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's sitting next, or he was next to Bear with an H.
Yeah, now he's kind of on the floor. He's still there. Silly question, but who's the Patreon for? That's a good question, I think.
Yeah.
This gets into another conversation that I guess was going to be kind of separate, but is this something that we feel okay diving into right now?
Sure.
There's some fuzziness that exists around the what I'm doing right now Patreon, because it was started when it was just a me thing, and now this company thing is like an extension of me. So we have questions about whether it makes sense to set up different Patreon campaigns for each of the different cinema studios things that we feel are worth setting up Patreons for, versus do we need to just have a cinema studios Patreon that people can give to? And each of those things offers some pros and cons. For example, if let's say currently we have the What I'm Doing Right Now Patreon, we have the Kate Tectonics Patreon. If we start another project that we feel would be good and compatible with crowdfunding, that would get its own thing. And with each of those things, people can give specifically to the properties that they enjoy. That gives us data on the back end about which projects people are excited about and which ones aren't doing so hot. And it allows people to get perks related specifically to the thing that they are excited about. If we roll everything up into a Cinema Studios Patreon, it's like one centralized place that people can give money if they support and enjoy everything that cinema is doing. It makes the perk thing a little bit more difficult, because if we have perks related to What I'm Doing Right Now and Kate Tectonics and Cut to the Tech or whatever, and someone really wants a Kate Tectonics thing, but they don't care as much about Cut to the Tech, how do we handle making sure that people are able to choose which perks they want and are only getting that thing? But like Invisible Man, Mr. Nick, is saying that he sees it as a cinema Patreon. So if it's already kind of functioning like that, if that's the way people see it, does it make sense to just call it that? There's a lot of fuzziness here.
I was going to say, sorry.
As a cinema Patreon, because what I'm doing right now is a life blog of cinema now. Eventually, it's less about, like, it is like your life, but your life now is cinema. So that's sort of why people are seeing it as the cinema Patreon.
I think having the cinema main one and then still keeping the Kate Tectonics or Cut to the Tech, whatever other Patreons out there as well is a good idea. Because it's going to be more than just this audience that likes those things. So we want to keep that up and running. I mean, there's going to be people who just like Kate Tectonics, and so that's all they're aware about, and that's just what they're giving to. We want to give them that option.
And then what are people getting if they're giving to the cinema Patreon specifically?
I think an overview over everything, kind of like what's happening now.
Well, what I was going to say, addressing the people in the chat saying they view this Patreon as the cinema Patreon, is like, that's good information to have. Thank you. But like, the people here in the chat have grown with cinema in a sense. So it makes natural sense for them to see this as cinema, because as Caitlin said, like, this has become your life. But new community members won't necessarily see it that way.
I want to address Ashley's question, because this is for me, the biggest issue with a cinema overall Patreon. So we were talking about in the office, how you can have like multiple $5 or $10 things, but when you get that, you also have access to everything underneath, and that's seemingly a thing that can't change. I was looking into it and couldn't figure that out. So like, if you get a $10 KT tier, even if there's like a $5 cut to the tech under that. Like you can't make paths for perks. And if you could do that, it would make more sense. And I feel like that would be the thing that we're missing to have a cinema Patreon. But
I very much agree.
Financially, does it matter where the money goes? Since all of the properties are intellectual property owned by cinema studios, tax-wise, I don't think it matters one way or the other.
The only difference between the pages now is the frequency with which we, solicit for patronage. But the money all goes the same place.
Maybe talk to Patreon about implementing that. There are things that I talked to Patreon a year and a half ago about implementing that don't exist. So I don't want to bank on that being the answer to our problems.
Yeah, at this point, we're solving issues within the structure of what we have and not relying on the fact or on the hope that the structure will change.
On a different note, it would maybe help if we end up deciding that we have separate Patreons for each project. We could, into our website, build a Patreon specific set of pages that's like, this is all of our projects and how Patreon is doing for each of our projects and what the perks are for each of our projects. They can go to this one singular page and even start becoming a patron from that page. So it feels more centralized instead of having to go to each individual Patreon page to
I'm interested for the people in the chat if they're more interested in having separate Patreons versus one central Patreon. Just as an instinctual thing for the people who are here, which would you rather on a personal level?
Part of the reason that this came up was that we've, in the brainstorming process of trying to come up with new perks to offer, is the what I'm doing right now, is patreon.com/Michael Aranda, is that the what I'm doing right now Patreon? And if it is, that makes it a little bit weird to try to offer other just generally cinema related perks on there. Can't even think of an example that we've talked about before. If Josh just draws a random picture and we have that as a digital perk or something, that's less me related than the branding of that Patreon campaign would seem, if that makes sense. I don't think people would care about having perk paths. By selecting a perk for a specific project, they're still showing support for that project, and you get the data for what projects are supported. From a business standpoint, I think you all stand to make more money by having separate Patreons. From the perk side of things, yeah, I'm not sure what you can do to specialize each. People who use Patreon already know how to get access to all the perks under the ones you're using, so that's not a surprise to people necessarily. That could be part of the Patreon-only perk even at the $1 level.
This is actually interesting to me because I'll be upfront, and I was one of the ones that said I didn't think that multiple projects was a good idea because I was worried about people feeling like they didn't have enough money to support multiple Patreons, and kind of causing less goodwill because of that. So it's interesting to see people wanting to have separate Patreons for me.
The one I'm doing right now, Patreon does not have a Discord as far as I'm aware. Or does
there's the Minecraft one. Okay. So I don't know if
it's the same one that we've been using for all of the gaming stuff. And that's one of those things where I like the idea of, ooh, exclusive content. That'll give people a reason to support the Patreon. But I think it's nice that, like, the Discord currently isn't tied to anything. So anyone can join it. And from a community standpoint, it feels nice that it's just accessible. So there's this constant battle between accessible to everyone is fun versus what do we do to make things exclusive, to make it worth people's time to give to a thing. Although, isn't it the case that on Discord you can set up specific channels that are?
Yes.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Does it connect? I guess you'd have to do it manually. You'd have to like manually give those people access.
I'm one of those old guys who doesn't really fully understand Discord, besides just using it just to play games. So I don't really understand the whole just going to the hangout sort of thing. I guess that's what people do. I don't know.
I think Patreon has a Discord integration. So where if someone is logged into both their Patreon account and the Discord can check, is so-and-so a patron of this campaign? If so, they're allowed in this channel.
Ooh. When you subscribe to a Patreon perk that has Discord, Patreon automatically links you to the Discord.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the same thing as when you're a Twitch subscriber to somebody and they have a Discord, and you like the integration between those two allows you to access to their subscriber stuff on their Discord.
Mm-hmm. Nick says, I'm on Charlie's side. Having a central place for people to give money instead of having people search for a bunch of different ones is more convenient from an audience viewpoint.
Only if you're in the audience for everything.
Yes, and that's the thing where, like, my point of view is if we're going to have a lot of people who just come across Catatonics but have no idea that cinema is a thing, and we want to give them a place where they can still donate if they want to.
Yeah, if you come into this not knowing anything about cinema studios and you find just like if Cut to the Tech were to have a Patreon and you come in liking tech reviews, but that's all that we make that you like.
Yeah, if you want to give the Cut to the Deck, you show up and one of the perks is like, you get a shirt that was hand painted by Todd.
Yeah.
It's a happy face.
Who cares?
Yeah.
So this is the bridge we find ourselves under.
Under?
Yeah.
Why are we under this bridge?
Why are we on the
Why
bridge?
are we not on it?
Listen, it's a saying that I just picked out of my brain.
I feel like it could be nice to have Patreons for each project. And then we also have a Cinema Studios Patreon that's separate from Michael and what I'm doing right now. But on the Cinema Studios Patreon, we don't really have tiers. Like it's just a place where, like, if people have their specific projects that they like, they can still go and donate money to those projects for a perk that they want. But then they can, if they also just want to give cinema $1 a month for all of the projects, they can do that as well. And then we can just do like a $1 perk, and every month we change it. So like 1 month it might be you get a Josh's drawing thing, and another month you get a Todd something or another. And like just kind of keep it as not tier based, just more like if you want to give support to cinema as a whole, you can do however much money you want, and you just get this singular perk that is different every month.
I struggle to see what can we offer people with the Cinema Studios Patreon account that makes it worthwhile for them to be supporting other individual project Patreons and a cinema one on top.
I think it's more, that's why, like, for the cinema one, you don't have perks. Like, the only reason you would really give money to just cinema is because you understand that we have multiple projects and you want to support all of them. Whereas if you really only want to support one project, then you're probably not, you're doing that already, or
That's
you're not.
Ashley in the
into
chat
cinema as a
has
whole.
a good point. If we don't want to do a like a donation cinema, there's that coffee thing which allows you to donate a one-time sum of money if people want to do that. If we don't want to have a separate donation-based Patreon.
And Kay, we have been talking about setting up Patreon that way by video rather than by month. Just when talking about the various projects.
Yeah. That thing about like if there was just one central place and Patreon did work or does work, because we don't know for sure, in a way that lets you choose which of the $5 perks you want out of a handful. I can see that situation being okay right now, but imagine if Complexly had a Complexly Patreon, and that was where all of the perks were. And so when someone decides, I'm going to give $10, their $10 perk is like, okay, do you want the thing from Vlogbrothers? Do you want this thing from SciShow? Do you want this thing from Crash Course? Do you want this VidCon related thing? Do you want this thing from Eons? Do you want this thing from the Brain Scoop? Do you want this thing from Healthcare Triage? Do you, like, at some point, the number of perks available at each tier becomes a little overwhelming. And I do think it's nice to have a Patreon campaign that is tied to one particular property. So when you're on that page, everything you're shown is related to that particular thing that you are trying to support. Can you have a Patreon without having perks? Don't see why not.
I mean, you can create one that way, sure. Where it's just set up for people to donate like once a month, or not once a month, but like one time, or
That's what I was saying.
yeah.
But shouldn't the overall idea of having cinema projects be to link people to other projects so they can be exposed to more of what you make? I think so, but I don't think that Patreon is the venue to do that. That's more like at the end of a video saying, hey, thanks for watching this thing. If you really enjoyed this, check out the other things we make, where you have more captive eyeballs in the like content consumption method.
By the way, Kate Tectonic's Patreon is now per video based instead of monthly based, because we
We're slow.
uploading any videos, and we talked about, you know, being able to just change that to per video, since it's so sporadic for Kate Tectonics at this point. So it is now just per video instead of per month for the Kate Tectonics Patreon.
Oh man, I wish we could bring in money per video on the daily blog.
I don't know. This is completely an aside, but I've been writing down every video that gets posted and like being able to see how close we get to being caught up, and it's just so exciting.
Where are we right now?
That number. We started season 9 at 85 days, and now we're at. I haven't put the most recent one in, but 63. So we've cut more than 20 days off of the backlog, which is nice.
Well, we only have like 10 more videos to post. so everyone knows.
I guess on the what I'm doing right now front, basically since the beginning of March, I have filmed very, very sparingly. So there's not anything being added to the backlog at this
There's
point.
still a handful of things in March.
It's pretty sparing.
So it's like average.
So it's South by.
The April you didn't.
We had more for South by, but
Yeah, we did it.
Oh.
I don't know if that
we went to South by Southwest.
I don't know if that story's been shared.
It hasn't.
Okay. My battery is about to die on this guy.
Are you concerned about being on camera, or are you okay just being on mic?
I'm fine with being on mic. I just want to be able to read and hear.
You have a headphone splitter. Oh, I guess you have your earphones.
AirPods.
So would the multi-Patreon idea be having a pay-per-video Patreon for each project and keeping what I'm doing right now as its own thing, and then making a cinema Patreon that has links to all the projects? So confusing.
So many decisions to make.
I think
I feel like I want to know if we did have separate Patreons for each project, and then also just a cinema Patreon that only was for like donating if you wanted to, with everyone that donates gets the same perk every month type of thing, if that is something that people would do, or would you just still only donate to projects that you enjoy within cinema?
I guess to add context to the idea of making a Patreon campaign per project, if we were to implement that right now, we would still have the same number of Patreon campaigns. There's the one for Cake Tectonics, and there's the one that is like the Michael Aranda, what I'm doing right now, one. I don't know what we're going to do in the future. I don't want to say we're never going to do this, because we might, but for now, Cut to the Tech is not going to get its own Patreon campaign. No. The idea is that that project will be funded through just getting people to send us free stuff.
Sponsorship and affiliate links.
Oh, affiliate! I forgot about affiliate links. So, like, if we do a video on the GH5S, there will be a link to the GH5S in the video that people click on and buy something. Then B&H gives us a little bit of money for that. So, I don't think, at least right now, the plan is to run that show without having to dip into the pockets of the community for that thing. There's a very slow car driving in the neighborhood.
if we do the multiple Patreon thing, I was gonna suggest, like, instead of doing a kind of complex route of having like a donation-based cinema Patreon, take Caitlin's idea of having a central page on the website that lists all our Patreons, and then have some sort of website interface where people can just donate to cinema if they want to.
Website.
I can't hear Charlie, so.
Yeah.
And y'all just froze for me, so I'm not sure how you responded to what I said.
Trying to read. I'm reading the signals.
I was saying that that's, I think, what Caitlin was saying earlier about the website.
Setting up a hub on the website to collate all the different places that people can support us for all the different projects that we have going on, and also offer a place that's just like, if you just generally like us and like what we do, and you want to buy everybody in the office a coffee, then here's a place where you can just, like, a tip jar for the entire company.
Yeah, instead of having like another extra Patreon. for that purpose.
Yeah. Someone said, I can't hear Todd because Michael's feed died. Am I still alive?
Yeah, you're okay.
Okay.
I guess outside of Patreon, we could also just on that hub site have a place where if you want to
a PayPal.
help us
Giving
I
the
think it'd be
signal
nice
to Caleb,
to
yes.
be able to give people something for doing that, and I don't know how we would keep track of people that.
Well, I mean, if you give on through PayPal or whatever, I mean, we know exactly who gave it and how much. And
Right, but then there's the problem of like, what if their address on PayPal isn't the same address that they live at, or whatever.
So it sounds like the solution to this problem is that we should just start from scratch, build our own platform for people giving money to projects they like, host that on our website so that we have control over everything.
So here's a funny little story. Before I moved out here, I actually have a ton of notes on this. I had a bunch of ideas of stuff Cinema could do. And that was one of the things I saw, like there was a need for it because all we had was Patreon. And I'll be more than happy to share all those notes with you.
I mean, the biggest thing that bothers me about Patreon is that they don't have an option for doing like one-off things. It has to be the subscription model, which is fine. But like on top of that, I like the idea that you could say, for the next 5 days only, you can give another $5 and get this statue of Todd's head.
So one of the things that I was thinking of trying to like figure out how to do was make it a nonprofit. So everyone that gave,
Maybe Michael Morgan would know the answer to this, but like, what would be the difference if we say we had a cinema specific Patreon and people donated to that versus if we just had like a tip jar where people could donate to on our website? Is there any difference like tax wise or
Probably processing fees.
fee wise?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it comes down to the aggregate number of total donations before you have to worry about tax treatment for those things. But at the end of the day, to Todd's point, if we had a foundation of some sort, kind of like the Foundation to Decrease World Suck, where people could make charitable donations and then the foundation use that money to do whatever they do, that's a totally different vehicle than Patreon, which is, like you say, a subscription model.
As an aside, Todd, a lot of people want a statue of your head for $5 now. So
cool.
Sorry.
Did it say bless underneath or something like that?
Yeah. Even Candace Cook said, Todd bless us.
What did Michael Morgan say? I can't hear any of that.
Basically that the total number of people paying through PayPal versus paying through Patreon affects what the fee structure looks like. Both Patreon and PayPal do take fees out, so it is probably mostly like a 6 of one, half dozen of the other situation. Obviously, Patreon is more streamlined for that kind of
Sure. So they
thing.
have the credit card fees, right? So everyone's responsible for those. And then I know PayPal takes like 2% or something like that.
I'll say it's like 3%.
3%.
Naya Dryad asks, how many episodes of Kate Tectonics do you expect to publish in the next year? Are you talking like 12 months from now or by the end of 2018?
Would be big. I don't know.
I'm going to guesstimate that we're going to put out one every 2 or 3 months. Should just be a 3D model. Everyone can print it as large as they want. You got to go find that guy who used to be at the smoke shop down the street from us that had he had a 3D imaging wand thing that
he shows up at the farmer's market.
I don't know this guy.
I talked to you a long time ago, like probably a year and a half ago, because I met him when I was up in Polson. He was at a thing, and I said that we should have him take him to VidCon or something because he can like do full 3D body scans, and if we had a little 3D printer there, we could just like print people little figurines of themselves.
Mudbound Girl says she would like a tip jar for a one-time donation.
I saw someone.
There we go.
Kay said, "Would you consider posting the daily vlogs on the feed? It would help for the times the subscribe page doesn't work." This was an idea that I had last night that I thought I need to write this down so I don't forget it, and then I promptly forgot to write it down. So it was in the form of a question. If we posted every What I'm Doing Right Now video to the Patreon feed, would that be overwhelming? I don't actually know how that works. Does it send you an email every time something goes on the feed? Is that something that each person can customize for themselves? Because if it's not annoying for people, then I'd say, sure, let's do it.
Well, back in 2015, our highest month of engagement was the month you published all the Time Warp videos on the Patreon feed. That got people, your issue was people were commenting on the Patreon feed, and there were like dual conversations going on between the comments on the video and then the comments on Patreon. And it went back to the issue of having a central place for people to comment on videos. And I think that's why we stopped doing the Time Warp videos.
I guess at some point, I think we're going to have to make a decision about where is the main hub of the community. Because as we've started to, 5 years ago, the idea of leaving YouTube was absurd. Now there's enough annoyance and backlash against YouTube that I'm not going to be surprised if some competitor comes along, which is going to necessitate, to remain relevant, people being on multiple platforms. Even Twitch now, I think, has this thing where you can upload a video to Twitch and set it to go live at a certain point, and then everyone can watch the video for the first time together as it's being broadcast live for the first time. And I think that's a pretty interesting thing. Yeah. So if we are doing all these things and it's going to fragment where the comments end up anyway, we need to find a place that's like, this is where the community lives. You can make your comments elsewhere. We'll try to be engaged with them, but the real party is here. Go here. And I don't know if that's going to be Discord. I don't know if that's going to be Reddit. There's options.
I think just throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks is kind of how like decisions can be made.
I mean, I think what we've seen over and over again, though, is that if it is not on the YouTube channel, there's a huge part of the community that won't know that it's happening. Like that is, everyone that's in the community is first and foremost a subscriber of the YouTube channel, and then it gets fragmented from there. So I've always been very hesitant to move from there because that seems like where the most
it would have to be a step out thing where you start to do both and then transition the audience from one platform to another. You couldn't just do it all in one go.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'd ever, to the general public, officially say, okay, we're deprecating YouTube comments. Like, it would have to be this kind of organic thing where, let's say we just decide Discord is going to be the place where people talk and interact with each other. And so we push the Discord and try to move people over there, but we'd never say, stop commenting on YouTube because you'll never get seen.
So what we do is we make our own platform that aggregates all of the comments from all the various
There you go.
places.
Called the Cinecord.
Yeah. Oh man.
I mean, you can set up a feed on a web page that has all of the comments and tweets and everything from everywhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can we transition the conversation to talking about perks?
Let's talk about perks.
Since that was the main goal today.
I have a couple of questions for the people who are in the chat about current perks and future perks. I want to know what you guys think. Like, do you prefer physical perks over digital perks or vice versa? And how do you feel about limited time exclusive perks for like that would be available for 1 month only?
And keeping in mind that it's much easier on our end to deliver digital perks, like that can be more consistent and more like there can be more of them.
Yeah.
The problem that we've run into, especially, is with the $13 tier that has the physical photos that go out. Here's a little secret when it comes to running a business. Sometimes you don't have a lot of money. You have to make choices about, do I pay Josh or do I send out these Patreon perks? So especially since last December, there have been a few times when money-wise, it's like, ugh. So the Patreon perks end up towards the bottom of the priority list when it comes to that kind of stuff. So we're sitting currently under a mountain of physical things that need to go out. And in talking about that, Michael Morgan brought up the point that I think, because you've been at that tier forever, so every single photo or whatever that's been sent out, you have. And while taking each individually, I'm like, I really like this picture, and I'm happy that this picture is going to exist in a physical form that people can put in a frame if they want to, whatever. But you know, a year in, 2 years in, you're going to have all of these physical photos, and what do you do with them? I'm sure some people like it, but other people like it's just they're going to get thrown away at some point. So, like, what?
Well,
where's the balance?
The one of the cow.
That's a good picture.
But for example, Kay, if we transitioned the photo perk to a high-res digital photo or edit it to be a computer background or a phone screen background, is that more useful and a better perk for the community versus getting sent a photo in the mail?
I would lean towards that because that has more practical use. Like if it's set to already be set for my phone, great. I mean, that means every month I have a new phone background. Same with my computer. I don't really mess with my computer background too much, but if I on my cell phone, sure, that's real easy.
And we could still have a blurb, like we send that in the email or the message or whatever. Like it.
You know, if it's a digital thing, we could even make the blurb that goes with it a short video or something, which is maybe more engaging than reading paper.
Yeah.
Yep.
Seems like some favorable responses to
that. Pretty much every picture that goes out has to get some kind of Photoshop done to it. So maybe that blurb could be just like screen cap myself with the webcam doing the quick Photoshop touch up to it while talking about the picture. And then that could go out as a video with those things. I guess the issue then is, how do we distribute the video? Is it an unlisted link? Is it a little MP4
Can you send out
file?
stuff through Patreon?
Yes.
You have Patreon specific videos
Oh, damn.
if you just want to upload a video to Patreon.
Okay. I'm sure there are, but are there macros or something where you can take a finished picture and then push one button and it will like crop for iPhone, export, crop for Android, export, crop for phone or desktop background, export?
Yeah. I just want to say really briefly that one of the reasons this community is so amazing is people are saying like, I don't want you to lose money on these perks. So if that's a thing, I don't know.
Yeah, that's really nice. Thanks, guys.
I don't know how we ended up here, but somehow we have the nicest, most like calm, level-headed, caring community that I've ever seen. And like, that's not an exaggeration. I've literally not seen another community that is as just nice. is, the Vlogbrothers community, there's certainly some overlap, but as a whole, they're much nicer than average. But even still, I find fewer instances of people being mean here than I see in comments over there.
I think it's it's a rare occurrence.
I want to address Giant's comment about music
What do you say?
being posted and how it's difficult sometimes to go through the feed to get music that you missed.
I don't know if there's a way in Patreon to have a page that just has all of the music.
I've seen when creating posts, I've never touched it, but there's a thing that lets you tag. So from the user experience on your end, is there a way to filter the stream, the feed by tags? Because if that's the case, we can tag all the music or whatnot, and then
you can feature a tag, so people would be able to go to, like, if you just feature the music tag, it would be there on the side, so people just.
Do people that give at that tier for music, do they get all the music that you've ever posted, or is it just like from that point on they get music?
The way we've done it in the past is like the first volume of what I'm doing right now went up, and then it stayed up when I started posting volume 2. And then once we hit the end of volume 2, we went and took down all of the volume 1 posts. That slid over, and then started posting volume 3. At the end of volume 3, took down all the volume 2 posts.
So essentially,
the idea was that as you're paying for that tier, you would have access to like a window of music that is sliding over time.
do you just upload them as MP3s?
They changed how it works slightly, and so I might be doing more work than I need to be doing. I upload it to their audio player thing, and then as an attachment, I add the MP3 to it, so that, because when I first tried the audio thing, it seemed like maybe there wasn't a way to download it, even though it was sitting there. So I added the attachment just to make sure that there's a way to download.
So what if each time when you add that attachment, you also add like a zip file of all of that season's music? You know what I'm saying? So like,
Can you say that again?
each month you release a new song to people on Patreon, and they also have access to all of the other songs of that season, correct?
If they were to go back into the feed, because
They would.
I think the way Patreon works is if you're at the $8 level, you then have access to the $8 feed, which goes back in time. Is that correct? Or does it just start from when you join that tier?
I don't know that answer.
I don't know.
I
am not sure.
If they have access to the entire backlog, then whenever they want to, they would have the ability to go back in time and find old stuff.
Instead of making them go back in time to each and every post and download each and every file, every time you assume that the person is new and this is the first time they're ever getting music. So you attach both the new song and a zip file of all of the previous songs.
But then you'd end up with people that aren't new, just re-downloading the same stuff over again.
But no, that's why you have two separate files. People can, you have both an attachment of everything and an attachment of the new song. So that if you're not new, you can just download the one song. If you are new, you can download everything in one click.
The only reason that we left the older stuff up for a while is because it would have been annoying for us every time to go back and pull down the old song. I think there's some level of exclusivity that I like about, like, when you are a part of that tier, that's when you're getting music that's coming out during that time. That's why we eventually went down and took down the the really old music stuff just in a batch, because it didn't make sense to me that if someone joins right now and gives $8, they suddenly have access to 84 songs from the last 5 years.
Sure. I think we're maybe misunderstanding each other. Like, if you only want people this season to get season 3, or what is it, season 6 songs, season 5 songs, just have a zip file with only season 5 songs that you have released.
If I could set it up exactly the way that I wanted, people would have access to only the songs that came out during the time they were giving money.
So then
the fact that there is a backlog available is just because of the way Patreon works, and it's a lot of effort to stay on top of restricting access to those things, so we just don't for a while.
So we don't, so then we don't need a solution. We just have to say, if you want the extra songs, you should go back and find them.
I think so.
Okay.
Which is what the tag problem solves, if we want to make it easier.
Is it not possible to go in at the end of the month, season, whatever, and do a new post with said zip file, volume 5? For it's not super hard. I mean, I'm not personally offended if someone new joins and gets access to every song.
It seems like it should be easy to, when you go into Patreon and do a new post, you delete the previous post first, and then you post that one.
There's some, I don't know that we're going to figure it out here, but there's some balance between restricting everything from like immediately before the time that you give money to allowing access to the entire backlog. Somewhere in there is the level that everybody is mostly happy with, and we can figure that out at some other time. Wait, I took a break. You posting zip files to people now? We have not. We have not posted any zip files.
It's weird to me that Patreon doesn't do that. Like, suddenly you are an $8 tier, and then you have access to everything.
It doesn't make sense.
It also wouldn't make sense to me that they would lock it to you don't get access. It seems like a thing that should be choosable by the Patreon person, and also probably adjustable per tier.
You can make a site that hosts the music that integrates with Patreon, so that you get access to the music that was available when the person.
That's what I was thinking, but I don't know how easy that is.
Charlie said that's what she was thinking, but she doesn't know how easy that is.
You can look into it.
I forget that Caitlin can't hear what's happening. Sorry.
And so how do people in the chat feel about exclusive perks, like perks that would be there for just a month and then disappear? But like they wouldn't be recurring. It would be like a one-time donation thing. If you want to get that perk, you donate to get it. And then
I think if I was giving, I would be into that. Just because, like, if 1 month it says, "Oh, that's super cool. I want that bust of Todd." Great.
I honestly don't know what kind of perks yet. I'm just throwing it out because it was an idea that we had thought of.
And I also think that giving people incentive to come back every month as well. So, you know.
We could do like a different dollar amount each month for a different thing.
Yeah, depending on what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
This starts to tie back into the confusion about, like, is the Michael Aranda Patreon what I'm doing around a Patreon, or is it a Cinema Studios Patreon? Because in thinking about, like, different perks every month, I was like, 1 month we can have like a Josh-centric thing where, like, here's a bunch of art that Josh did. 1 month, they're like, here's a cool picture of a bike that Halicia painted.
I think,
but that's like leaning more cinema related.
I think if that's something that we want to do, that should just be a specific, like, on the cinema website for this month. If you donate $5, we'll send you this thing.
It's like a tip jar reward type thing.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
It wouldn't be like a Patreon thing.
Yeah, I like the concept of using that as cinema and then project-based Patreons.
I agree.
I'm just looking through to see if I can figure out more Patreon behind the scenes stuff. Ugh.
Is there a way to integrate the store? Someone said likely the cinema store.
I mean,
to facilitate that kind of thing.
You could, sure. It's just a new item we have on the store, and that way we would have their correct address. We would have their names.
I mean, it's really like if you're thinking about it two different ways, it's like, yeah, you either donate to get this thing, or if it's on the store, they're basically just buying an exclusive piece of merch. It's not honestly that different.
Is it different based on like how much is taken out from different, like if it was a tip jar and we're running I don't know, like Patreon takes out 3%. So if we were doing something through Shopify, like what would be?
So Shopify
takes a percentage.
It's the PayPal percentage. And I think with the tier we're currently paying on, it's roughly the same.
But no, we'd like to move away from Shopify.
We would, yes.
So, and it's an easy enough way to just building a similar e-commerce thing into our website, even if it's just for one tiny section.
Is Square part of Shopify, or is that a separate thing?
No,
it's a separate
but that could be integrated.
Okay.
Basically, we just need to figure out what makes the most sense.
I mean, if you're going to be giving, currently, I believe through Shopify, the fees are the exact same as PayPal. So there is no, as far as that goes, there's no one's better. But it would be nicer to be able to have people's addresses and information that's accurate. And they don't have to, well, I mean, I guess through PayPal, you can pay credit card and stuff if you wanted to, but Shopify makes it easy to do that.
For the $3 perk, which is mostly a Minecraft server access thing, is that fine? Do we want to change that?
I think that's good. How many people are currently on that?
47.
Okay. How many are on the $1?
136.
And how many are on the is it $13 or $8?
There's $8.72, and 8 people at the 13.
Okay.
And 13 people at the 21.
I think.
Let me pose this question to the chat: obviously we don't know who's doing what perk, but what kind of things could we do that would incentivize you to have a higher perk?
Yeah, I think thinking about stuff that we're not offering, but could be offering is
yeah, like what do you guys want to have on these tiers? Is there a tier that you would like us to have that we don't have? Other than the bust of Todd.
I mean, I could drive around the U.S. giving people high fives. I mean, that's a thing.
Sounds expensive.
For the $1.
See, I'm looking at the $13 perk where we have the photos. What I would really like is if by default it's a digital perk, but there was like a little button where people are like, no, I really want a physical one of this particular photo because I like this particular photo. So it's like an extra $3 to cover shipping, and then like they get the physical perk for that month without having to send physical perks out to everybody every month.
It would be
Basically,
more than
we're just
$3.
twisting that Patreon would be more customizable than it is.
Or a physical, to mail out a physical.
Just because we're not
photo?
counting, you're not counting in the printing and the cutting and all that.
I mean, I guess we could set up as part of this like rotating exclusive merch. You can have a physical copy of a photo on the store for sale for a month if people want that
Yeah.
thing.
I think the other thing to note is a lot of people are like, we just can't give more. And I think also, what would make your pledge more worth it? Like, what do you feel you would like from your pledge?
I mean, because obviously, just responding to Nick, I understand that it's not always about the perks, but sometimes it is, because if you think about the people who, like, if you think about stuff for P4A, in that sense, the perks really do matter, and what you're willing to donate and stuff.
I think our community is so nice that they're just like, I'll just give you money. That's so kind, but we want to make sure.
Or I guess
thinking.
try to put yourselves in the shoes of someone who is new to the community and is not yet supporting on Patreon. Can you think of perks that we can offer that you think are likely to get people interested in becoming more invested in what we're doing? There's a kitty sleeping on the window. I like the idea of an item on the store that you can pay for as a one-time thing, but if you're a Patreon, you get a coupon code each month for an item on the store.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. So it's available for anyone in the community to get, but if you're a Patreon, you get like 50% off or something, and it's like that monthly thing.
So what tier would that fall under?
I don't know.
I think it would have to be a thing that we did every month.
Mm-hmm.
Like put up that, like a one-time thing. Or if you want it to be just for every patron, then yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that. Wait, what was said?
Yeah.
I can write it down.
So it's something that we offer on the store to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you're a patron, you get a 50% off coupon through Patreon to buy that. Oh my God. Can we just set up a live stream of the cats? Or of Juno? I really want to do a live stream of Juno in the office during the day.
It's a shame that she's probably too small to wear the GoPro harness.
The problem with the live stream of Juno is that she doesn't stay in one spot enough.
Access to the live feed of
Juno wearing a
Juno, or like access to the live feed of the office in general.
That would be
Or
fun.
like I could put a camera in my room on the chair where the cats like to sit.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear me saying, "Hey, stop
You can
fighting
hear
her."
Juno's high-pitched ear-splitting barks just
Yeah.
randomly for no reason.
It's, yeah.
Or when I walk into a room, you know.
Or when you... Oh. Would you not want a Juno live stream of her sleeping mostly on people's laps? Because I would.
I think I'm glad that A, that this conversation is happening, and B, that Charlie is going to be here soon, because all of this stuff is all really exciting, but it is mostly in the category of it will fall out of my brain if I am entrusted with making sure it happens on a regular basis. So
It's also a thing too where it's just not enough manpower to make sure that all runs. That's been kind of the issue.
Mhm.
that's how cinema has operated since the beginning, like doing more than we have the resources for. And so thankfully over the last 6 months to a year, it feels like we stopped doing so much of like, let's add this and just let the amount of resources we have build to fill what we're already trying to chew on. Still don't think we're quite there yet, but having Charlie out here to keep on top of all of this stuff will mean that
It happens.
stuff happens the way it's supposed to and when it's supposed to.
Yeah, I think that's the hard thing, is wanting to make sure you guys know that, like, if you're not seeing a thing or if you're not hearing from us for some reason, like, it's not because we're not doing anything.
Yeah.
We are running around like crazy trying to get everything done.
And even if that's the case, I wish that it was easier to keep on the top of my mind that should be communicated.
Yeah.
I just am
We've
so bad at thinking about all the things. all the
we've
time.
all become firefighters because we're putting out all these fires. No, sir.
I don't think so. Thank you.
Yeah, I think just prioritizing communication is something that we just need to do and be better about.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm going to do before Monday is I mentioned on the Patreon feed back in like January or February or whatever about redoing volume 1 of the What I'm Doing Right Now soundtrack so that most of the tracks were over 1 minute in length so that we could put that on iTunes. All of that is done now. So I want to go in and schedule like basically one every day for the whole month, because there's like 30 tracks from that.
To be uploaded to iTunes or just to go live?
This is for Patreon, because
Okay.
I said since people give $8 a month to get the music that I'm creating, and I'm like redoing old music, I'm going to republish volume 1 on Patreon. So, because what day is the first?
So Monday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So probably Tuesday, starting Tuesday, one track from the volume 1 will go live a day until all of them are out.
Looks like we're making a Kickstarter for the Todd Bust.
I was thinking like it would be kind of cool if we got some
Made a bust
engineer.
of you?
No, we got some. I mean, yes, but like we got an engineer to kind of do with it like the Nintendo Labo thing, where you just like you get a cardboard and you pop it out and you build
Build a Todd.
a
And
Todd.
you stick the Joy-Cons in and you can give you a high five or have you really Todd bless.
You got to be careful about where you let people shove the Joy-Cons in.
But I mean that'd be kind of cool. That thing would be figured out for anybody, really.
You know those things where you put them in water and they get really big?
Yes.
Yes.
Do they?
Grow a Todd.
Is 3D printing of that material a thing?
That's hilarious.
I bet we could probably do like a cardboard Build-A-Todd kit, but it would be like do you remember Charlie's old poster where
The cutouts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be like that, but with cardboard, and we could make it like you could stand it up and like put pants on it.
Gabby says Todd Chia pet.
Only cargo shorts.
Yeah,
I'm all for the Todd Chia pet, to be honest.
cargo shorts.
Someone suggested a Todd Chia pet.
Oh, Todd paper dolls.
Oh, the beard grows.
Yeah.
Oh.
And on top, I'm not bald yet.
I love the idea of a Todd paper doll, though. Like, you could put the beard on, you could put sandals on, you could put like one of your variety of t-shirts.
Yeah, there's like
Yes.
t-shirts and like a
The
couple of plaid
77
shirts
for
that
and
one.
Yeah.
sandals.
We could have a contest that's like make a sweet shirt for Todd, and then we could sell the actual shirt on the store.
I like
Okay,
this.
I'm getting into too.
I feel like, okay, so we need to set up a separate Patreon that's just for Todd paper dolls.
Huh.
Now, what
I
are
wonder
you-
how much people would give if they got to like design a shirt that you would wear?
Oh, I would wear it. Yeah.
You don't just say that. You have to be like, oh, well, for $5,
It's like a slightly more
I would
mild
wear
version
it.
of that tattoo thing that we were talking about.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, what's it worth to me?
That's
It's
how
helping
you
the
sell
company,
things.
Todd.
Yeah.
Gavi wants a Mr. Potato head.
That's probably how we can market it.
Oh. No, we just give you a potato. Call Todd. And you stick a nose and glasses on.
I like how I become a meme. This is great.
We've known you're a meme for a while.
That's
Look
true.
into the Patreon integration with Zapier.
I wrote it down.
Zapier.
Oh,
I am using Zapier for the Cut to the Tech Slack to post when Cut to the Tech goes live, so
Oh.
I've used it very briefly.
I thought that was a paid service.
It's up to a point. I
Yeah.
think you have like 1 or 2 things you can do on there.
I think it's 5.
Okay. I
Custom-
feel like it's kind of like if
If this, then that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar to that.
we could give out like Dwayne's cousins
This is Rocky.
rocks.
I still want to
And
do
I
that.
can, you know, they'd have eyes. And
One of the things we can do on the is like the calendar.
Yes, the Dwellender. I refuse to accept it under any other name.
For $10, Abby will pun for you.
$10, you get a pun.
Personalized pun prescriptions.
Crafted just for you.
Puns or lies. I don't know.
That was bad.
It's fine. Sometimes
so
they're better than others.
are there still things that we need to discuss? Have we gone through everything that everybody needs to feel happy and content?
Yeah.
I think so as well.
I want all of these things. Good.
Post office will be very confused why you're shipping tons of rocks.
As
Well,
long as they don't take it for granted.
Ah.
Man, it's been a while since we've done rock puns.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Happy late birthday, JT.
JT, happy birthday!
Oh, it's JT's birthday.
His birthday was the day after my birthday.
Oh, it's been
Karen's here. There is a Twitch sub. Oh, you mean for cinema, not Michael. Yeah, that's probably a thing we should do.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
You gonna wish me a happy late birthday on my late birthday for my late birthday?
Well, aside from Patreon stuff, then, what's happening in general company news right now?
Well, Cut to the Tech is
Cut to
happening.
the Tech,
That's
yeah.
super exciting.
Has that been launched since the last Patreon live stream?
Close, if not.
Yeah, I think so.
And so today, the Nintendo Labo video is going live with yours truly doing some voiceover stuff. We've been able to upload once a week, which is great for us.
Mhm.
So we got a bunch of stuff from B&H, and
what
Yeah.
are some things to come?
that's what Michael and Abby are wearing are the
It's the Fitbit
Fitbit
Charge
2,
2.
yeah.
We're testing them out for a couple weeks so we can do an episode on that.
we got a tablet, drawing tablet.
Spoiler alert, I
not
don't
good.
want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got a VR backpack with a VR foot control and some fun stuff for that. So Kyle's coming in on Tuesday to have fun with that. What else did we get? Stuff.
Yeah.
We got a chair.
Oh, yeah. I love this chair.
The chair
It's
is
my
really
favorite
nice.
This chair.
We got a microphone. It's an old timey microphone.
Can we have Logan do a crayon drawing recap of more movies?
ideally. I'm sure he'd love to do that.
Of who doing movies?
Logan. His Infinity War.
Yeah, paper doll. It's a niche.
Other stuff.
VidCon.
Yeah, VidCon's happening.
We are in the preparation phases of VidCon.
Elevated Destination.
That wasn't a sentence, but I think you know what I meant.
Shooting the first episode.
We think, if all goes to plan, the entire cinema crew will be in Anaheim, California for VidCon, and you may have noticed that I'm not on the featured creators list at VidCon this year, so I thought that I wasn't going to be involved at all, aside from having a booth, but they sent me an email last week, maybe a week and a half ago, something like that, saying that they are creating a new tier of guests at VidCon. So there's featured creator, which is the top thing, and now second-class citizens are known as invited guests.
Stop it!
I'm just being what's the word? Facetious. So invited guests have all the same perks as featured creators, and they just don't get their airfare paid for, they don't get hotel room paid for, and they don't get a +1. I never took advantage of the free airfare anyway because we drove all the time. The hotel room, it's nice, I guess, but Stefan's parents live right by the convention center, and so that wouldn't have been an issue for me anyway. And the +1, oh well.
I think the suggestion of doing a live stream from VidCon is a good one. Maybe we do an Instagram live stream from the booth at some point, or multiple days.
That can happen.
That was
Doing from the house.
Where I was going with this invited guest thing, though, is that as a part of that, they asked me, do you want to have a meetup? And I said, yes. I haven't heard back from them since then, but theoretically, VidCon is going to put together like an officially sanctioned meetup for people at VidCon who want to come see any of us, minus some people who are probably still going to be working the booth at that point.
I don't know why they haven't been doing this all the time.
We should do banner-wise, just the Cinema Studios banner this year. That would be fun. I feel like that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Like instead of your blonde stripe person banner.
We don't have a new design to put on a banner anyway.
She's Hillary.
Yep. So I don't know if you want to talk about elevated destinations.
Oh, elevated destinations is a thing that we're going to be putting up a Patreon for. Now we've talked about this Patreon stuff. There's a guy who works at Zoo City Apparel, which is where we get all the shirts and stuff printed, named Jake. And Jake broke his back forever ago, but suffers chronic back pain because of it, and he's found that marijuana allows him to function well enough to be able to go mountain biking and canoeing and adventuring out in the wild. So Elevated Destinations is going to be a show hosted by Jake, where each episode he partners up with someone who has some kind of ailment that they use medical marijuana to help with, and they're going to go out on some kind of outdoorsy adventure. We've started planning our pilot episode. We already shot like an introduction video that's going to go up on Patreon explaining what the project is all about. The main point of the whole thing is to try to further break down some of the taboo around marijuana as a thing and recognize it as something that humanity can leverage for good. Most of the marijuana-related content that I've seen online, not that I go looking for it, but the stuff that I have seen, it's the kind of stuff that seems appealing to people who already like marijuana. Like it's very stoner in its appeal, but we want to make something that For people like myself, I've never smoked marijuana. I never plan to smoke marijuana or do anything with marijuana. I've never touched it. But for the sake of educating people like myself about the medicinal qualities of it, we want to do something that can appeal to a wide range of people.
Yep.
So it's not going to be just a bunch of people sitting around being stupid. It's going to be people living life to the fullest by using medicinal marijuana to reduce the pain that they experience on a regular basis.
So the first episode, the pilot, will be filming the 2nd and 3rd of June. So
I have no idea when it's going to be online, and I've learned enough at this point to not say any dates.
Yeah.
So it's just a thing we're working on. It'll be out when it's done, but we are going to be filming it in just over a month.
And we've got a few other like local projects that we're working on as well. Stuff with local companies.
Yeah, doing some advertisements for local businesses and whatnot.
Already started planning the New Year's Eve live stream.
Oh,
Have a meeting.
baby.
Have a meeting for that this next coming week.
It's gonna be fun.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool beans.
Well, this has been a long thing that we did.
Thank you, everybody, for your input.
I just got a Todd 5, but it was off screen, so you didn't see it.
my God.
I mean, here, I can do this. I don't know if that's...
Farther, Todd. Farther. Yeah, there we go.
+1.
I want to see your advertisements for local business. Maybe.
That's not up to us.
We need to get permission for that kind of thing. Well, thank you everybody for hanging out. Thank you for all your input. And hopefully you will see the fruits of this conversation in the coming month or so.
I like fruit.
Todd likes fruit. All right. Do we know when the next stream is already?
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm going here when I have all the other ones here.
Oh, guys, my mom's gonna be here next week.
I like your
Wow.
mom.
May
My mom's
26th.
cool.
All right. Our next stream is May 26th at the same time it always is.
Same bad time, same bad channel.
Hell yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Okay, I love
Okay.
you all.
Never mind, everybody.
Love
See
you
you
all.
next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.